everyone, this is Keith Scott from our Simply Australia. I'm one of the voices that will let you loose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kenney and Andy McPhee.
What happened after graduation?
My parents were in the middle of a divorce, Part of the reason why I was struggling in high school and even when I was younger was because, yeah, that's sort of a tough one, man. Yeah, it's sort of complicated to explain, but I'll try to do it to my best ability. All right, so yeah, I was not surprised. I had seen the divorce coming for many years of growing up. I was really not surprised when it happened, and in fact, I was happy to an extent. I'll just tell you my earliest memories of the dynamics of my parents' relationship. I remember at 5 years of age, once I fully could, you know, comprehend the world for the most part, I was watching a Veggie Tales episode and I suddenly heard a lot of yelling and screaming between my parents that I had not seen to a certain level. And the vibe that I got was that my father instigated it. I also had seen how my father was in his true character. I saw him as calculating, cold, and ultra bossy. So dad was a police officer who was revered in my hometown of Estes Park, Colorado, obviously because he solved a lot of criminal cases and his calculating persona had helped a lot of that. But he also applied the same techniques and calculating behavior into his personal life. And an example of that was one time at 5 years of age, I woke up in the middle of the night because obviously I didn't have really much of a good night of sleep. And so I went upstairs to ask my parents for help because I was told that if I needed help, I could come, ask them anytime I needed. Well, I came into the kitchen to find Dad drinking a very weird looking beverage that I later learned as I grew up was alcoholic. And when he saw me, he got very snappy over me being out of bed and was yelling and screaming at me to the point where I feared for my safety. So when my mother came into the room to see what was going on, I was obviously crying, and Dad all of a sudden began acting confused and baffled to make it look like that I had, overreacted to his response. I didn't think much of it afterwards because Mom comforted me and I went back to bed and went to sleep. But yeah, the argument during my VeggieTales episode left me and Harrison, my brother, stunned. Mom and Dad got really heated, and it was over, if I'm recalling correctly, it was over him purchasing a boat that we only had for a month. And deep down, their feuding happened because Mom was feeling, with a lot of accuracy, that she was being the caregiver for the three of us, including Dad, and it was taking a strain on relations between them. When the argument was over, Mom and Dad abruptly told me and Harrison, to our surprise, that it was a simple familial discussion that was, in their view, perfectly normal in families. Harrison was more obedient, in my opinion, blindly obedient, and Harrison easily believed them. I was hesitant, as my thoughts were, how long have they been married? And I don't know if ending a marriage is a thing, but if this doesn't end, I see it going badly at some point. Other people close to us had, believed in their integrity and their capability of making the marriage last. However, the years after until 2016 only continued to validate my position that they were not a good fit to begin with. And it was only after my parents' divorce that people truly began to see where mistakes were made on their end. And when 2016 began, I think that in many ways I was vindicated, which is why I was satisfied. And as hard as it's sort of to say, it seems that the only way the truth was gonna prevail in this case was if people actually saw the marriage end, which is what basically happened. And I don't really have much regrets on my father being in his unfortunate position, because in the end, he's responsible for his choices he makes. My parents had a very toxic relationship. It was not a good relationship. It was sort of back and forth between them, and that can only go for so long before it was time for them to make a change. And so it was 2016 that my parents divorced each other.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Gee.